Soundstripe.
Welcome back to South End Supporters Presents Red vs. Blue, your weekly Premier League series. Eric Cole alongside the Monday Morning center back, Dave Wyckoff. And Dave, it was nice for me to have a week above you on the table, but just like that, we are right back below you on the table. And I just feel like it just seems like things are all back to where they kind of are, or what most people think they should be, unfortunately. But
things are right
I
with the world.
enjoyed that week
saying?
of sending you many. I enjoyed that week of sending many memes and many videos as much as I could throughout the group chat because I realized I got to capitalize on it while I can. But before we get into all that, how are we doing today?
Yeah, good. You got to strike when the iron's hot, and I respect it. Really, you didn't really use your time wisely enough. I would have recommended sending many more screenshots of the table, and it was just it's just you don't know what you've got till it's gone, Eric, and you're feeling that right now. And it wasn't even a loss; it was a draw.
I know. But lesson learned. Next time I see myself above you in the table, it will just be relentless. On the hourly, I'll set a reminder on my phone to find something new to send you because, I will not make that mistake again. But, I think almost a pretty straightforward weekend, you would say. I don't think there are really too many surprises in there. I feel like a lot of the games we picked kind of went the way that we would maybe predict. I mean, really the only one that stood out to me, and I'll kind of get a little ahead as one of my slayers of the week, was the West Ham result against Newcastle. I don't think really predicted that sort of victory and that sort of game. Newcastle just looked way off, but I would say outside of that, a lot of pretty straightforward results as far as what we thought. Anything stood out to you that was different?
No, I would agree with that. Newcastle are just so painfully mediocre in England this year. It feels like they just bring their game in Europe, and then on Saturdays they kind of just take a break. As weird as that sounds, so maybe they figure that's their best way back to Europe. I don't know. I think that they're a talented squad, but you drop a result to West Ham in the fashion that they did. I don't think they were really ever in the game. As weird as that to say, West Ham looked up for it, so good for them. It'd be really deflating to take 3 points and still be in the relegation zone like that. It's such a big win, and we're still far away from safety. So, Liverpool bounced back that nobody wanted to see. Man City sort of dominating Bournemouth, which again nobody wanted to see. And then Wolves being Wolves. I think the only game that really I missed on was Brentford and Palace. Palace just keep on chugging, man. They just you take players away and you count them out, and they just keep on doing what they're doing. But have we had a juggernaut yet? I know we have Slayers of the Week, but have we actually named a juggernaut yet?
No, we have not done a juggernaut yet. No.
So obviously the juggernaut through this first quarter of the season is Erling Haaland. It's just absurd, man. He's just an absolute machine. There's no other way to put it, man. He just buries almost every chance he gets. And you can't stop him. He's the perfect, being Norwegian is very appropriate for him, because when you watch him run, and I was watching that game with Zoe, and I said, he is the embodiment of a Viking in 2025. Yes. He's just marauding, pillaging, murdering, taking whatever he wants, and you can do nothing to stop him. It's got to be the most terrifying thing for a goalkeeper when he picks the ball up on a broken run by himself at half field, and you've got to stop this Nordic Clydesdale. What do you do? I don't know how you handle that guy. And it was funny. I was not aware of the whole Roy Keane. I knew about him and Haaland's father, but I didn't know about the whole League Two comment he made last year until I read about it. First of all, Roy Keane's an idiot. Like,
Well, no
that
way.
was such a bad faith comment to make about that dude. Just so like self-serving and oh, I ended this guy's dad's career. I'm gonna say what I want about him. It's like you're an idiot. League Two, and I think it's funny now that he. I guess it was at the beginning of this season. Threw out some compliments, like trying to make it water under the bridge, and Erling just kind of ignored him like he should. So yeah, he's the juggernaut for the first quarter of the season.
Yeah, I think if we were sticking also with Halo terms, you just say he's on a killing spree right now. He's just like
Oh my God.
it's almost a when you see a city win anymore, it's not did Holland score, it's how many did he score in said game. Like he's just yeah, like you said, he just when he runs, it's just like with a few like he looks like he's running. Like when he just full body movements, but it's just
Yeah.
an aggressive run. Like he looks like and then, he almost invites the physicality as well, which you kind of attribute almost to like more of an old school striker. Like he looks forward to the contact and he almost feeds off of it, like as in, he looks at it as a challenge of like, I'm going to out physically dominate you. You're not going to out physically dominate me. And yeah, he is the definition of what a Viking was. He's what, 6'4", 6'5"? Like
Yeah.
he's just, and then kind of like we were saying with Voltamede, like the touch and skill that he also possesses in his locker is just like I know he missed out on it, but going in on a breakaway and like being or in on goal and running with that much pace and still trying to get the little cheeky dink over the keeper as the keeper's coming out, like you don't really see that with like big brooding strikers like
No.
he is, and
No.
so he's just I mean, he's a freak, and it's annoying that years ago, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer told the directors at Man U that they should sign that kid when he was playing, I believe, in a Norwegian second division before he went to Dortmund, and they said no, and it's just like what could have been, and then
Yeah.
I think if I remember, like I don't think his fee from Dortmund was anything outrageous in today's standards either. I think they got him
No,
for
I
like
feel like it was like 60 million pounds or something
yeah,
like that. Like
something
some
like that.
absurdly low number.
Right, yeah. So it's like one of those deals where, man, the rest of the league it's one where you're looking back and thinking like, because I think the big talk then was, yeah, but and it's always kind of this talk that you get with a lot of players from different leagues is, yeah, but can they do it in the Premier League? Like that's always kind of the,
Yeah.
yeah, they're great, but can they do it? That was always the thing with Messi too. It was always like, yeah, he's great, he's probably the world best, but the whole saying was, can he do it on a cold night in Stoke? And it's just like, there is some truth to that though, because we've seen so many talents succeed over in different leagues in Europe, and then they come here, and it's just like that is not the same player. It's
Yeah.
just but it's a completely different game. It's more physical. The speed. I mean, I think if you ever watched the YouTube series Hot Ones when Zlatan was on there, they asked him to kind of break down all the leagues, and he I think it was an very accurate and interesting way that he brought it on, and he really explained how the Premier League is just a different beast compared to those other leagues, and he's played in all the top ones.
Yeah.
Serie A, I think the only one he didn't play in was Bundesliga. So yeah,
Yeah. And what's the common characteristic between himself and Holland? It's size.
yeah,
Like I think size translates from the rest of Europe to the Premier League better than anything. And a size speed combo with that, deftness of touch, just, you put him, you compare him to somebody who achieved really good success in the Premier League as a top striker, like a Lukaku. Lukaku never really had the finesse to his game. His game was just all power and pace. And that's, I mean, and a great finisher. But Holland is it's just like a different level. Like it's early on in his career, and I get it. Like we don't want to anoint somebody as, greatest striker in the Premier League, but I can't. And I haven't been watching as nearly as long as a lot of people, but I can't think of a person that plays that position the way he does and does it better. It's just kind of he's kind of a one of one, and
not,
hopefully he stays healthy.
yeah, not right now anyway. Especially like he's definitely a one of one, and I think to your point, I think size is a big contributing factor when you think about who these strikers are going up against, especially if you're going to be like a lone striker, kind of like he usually plays. Is like the one of the biggest qualities that you're seeing now with center backs is just size and physicality, just going to out muscle whoever's on the ball and be somewhat decent with the ball at their feet.
Yeah.
And if you're not a physical or inviting physical like type figure like he is, or you look at Zlatan, he welcomed it just as much. Like you're gonna struggle, because then when you're not on your feet, you're not getting the touch, you're not able to
Yeah.
control the ball the way you would like if you're getting body around and stuff. So yeah, he's just I think like every year, if he keeps on these like sort of streaks, and if he, like you said, he can stay healthy and the pieces around him can stay healthy as well, those goal scoring records per season each year is just going to be, unreal and untouchable. But
So
one thing I want to
go ahead. I'm
go
sorry.
ahead. No, go ahead.
No, no.
It's probably on that topic. But the only thing I was going to say is like you touched on it a little bit earlier with Newcastle. Like when they got those new owners, we thought it was going to be the next coming of Man City, where a team that just struggled for years with a kind of cheaper owner all of a sudden comes into big money and then slowly starts adding pieces and becomes, City was a juggernaut for those couple years. Now the rest of the league's sort of catching up. Do you attribute Newcastle, I don't know if I'll say struggling, but not meeting up to expectations? Do you put it more down to the rest of the league has adapted from that said Man City model that it was years ago where, the teams couldn't keep up? Nowadays, you get a little bit more keeping up and the talent pool is so deep. Or do you look at it as Newcastle haven't invested wisely and they haven't made the best of choices, or they've, you look at this year's transfer market, they missed out on a lot of their targets. And so they, what do you more put it down to when it comes to Newcastle? Is it because, it seems, I know the money isn't as high as some of these other, but it's up there. So you can't really just say it's not a money issue, but is it because the rest of the league is caught up when it comes to the financials type of stuff? Or is it just you don't think they've been the best as far as maybe not scouting, but getting those deals across the line?
Well, they are reportedly very low on the totem pole in terms of the PIF fund, like reinvestment of funds. We're not plugged into that world, you and I, but through reading some of the stuff that you see in the Athletic and the Guardian, the PIF doesn't really provide them with anything. Thus, the inability to raise the funds to keep Isak. Not that they were inclined to, because it was an exorbitant amount of money, but I just don't think it was ever even there. I think it can probably be both at once, right? Like Newcastle are in between, I think, because you think about the success that they had to get back to the Premier League, and it was an internal thing, and then they got purchased by the PIF, and now do they try to be a Brighton, Brentford, or do they try to be a team that spends moderately while trying to compete? It's tough to say. If you don't, this is the biggest problem with the foreign investment funds having a stake in this league, is the only motivation to succeed is monetary, right? There's no roots, there's no English pride. Like, if things aren't working for them, let's sell Anthony Gordon, let's sell, whoever, and move on. So I think they're kind of stuck in a hard place. And Eddie Howe is a very aggressive manager, and his style dictates that he have a very high level of fitness for his entire squad, and a deep squad, because they want to press and they want to run. And I think, remember if I was listening to, if it was their Champions League match or if it was the actual Premier League match, but he wants to play at this high level, and you can kind of see that Newcastle are already a little bit fatigued as a squad. So, it's just so weird to see a team that does so well in European competition, and then they're down at like 13th or 14th in the table.
Yeah. Yeah.
It is what it is. Like if you're a Newcastle supporter, I guess you're kind of torn. Like you probably didn't want this to be your ownership group, and now you've been stuck with them for a while, and kind of like the Cardinals, right? Like you had some success, and now nobody's putting back in, and you're just kind of trying to ride it out to see if you can, if you can pull a rabbit out of a hat. But
Yeah.
I wanted to talk real quick before we move on to the preview stuff, just about, we have one more weekend, and then you got the last international break of the year. And neither of us are Arsenal supporters, but I think we've got to acknowledge the monster that they've become on defense. I mean, schedule certainly plays a role in it, but do you know that so they won this week in Champions League, didn't allow a goal again. So it's 10 wins on the spin, and it's 8 clean sheets in a row.
Mm-hmm.
Still only 3 goals conceded in the Premier League through 10 games. It's hard to ignore. I mean, some of these games, and this game in particular this week, I don't know if they gave up a real chance on goal to Burnley. Now Burnley is Burnley, but
no, they were in control that game,
and we're not we're not XG guys, clearly, if you listen to Southend supporters, but a 0.42 XG for Burnley with 3 total shots and none on goal. I mean, that's pretty dominant.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think that, there is some absurdity getting floated about right now that, the league's already over and nobody's going to catch Arsenal. And I don't think we agree with that at all. I think there's definitely a run in some of these teams. But, what do you make of this Arsenal? Is this a different Arsenal team, or are we just kind of waiting for, some on-field adversity? Because they've got injuries, but on-field they haven't slipped up yet.
I think it's a mix of both. I think they've shown signs still in games that should be way more comfortable for them of weakness and vulnerability. While they've experienced a lot of injuries, majority of those have been in the offensive end, which this offseason was their primary focus as far as strengthening their squad, I believe, with like Eze and then Gyökeres and all that type of stuff. I think they're so solid defensively and just through the spine of their team, and that's where they've really suffocated teams and not broken their will as far as not allowing them many opportunities, and they've stayed in games and really dominated a lot of these games. You look at this Burnley game that they had, and again, it's Burnley, but they dominated every category pretty much that you really highlight and stuff. The thing I'm just not sold on is I do think that, like, in the bigger games is still where you see them more exposed a little bit. They don't really rise up to the occasion. They always seem to kind of falter there, and I just wonder how that's going to carry them through as the season progresses. Now, I think if they can stay healthy, especially on the defensive end, I think they have enough pieces to kind of keep moving them forward, because I don't feel like any offensive weapon of theirs is really lighting the league on fire, like we highlighted with like Holland and stuff. Like Gyökeres has been on the score sheets, but they've been real ugly tap-in lucky goals more so than it's been like huge created goals. So I'm still nowhere near saying it's over, but the big thing that they have in their favor right now is they have been very, very consistent, whereas the rest of the league, it's been like just a constant counterflop of, like, you look at like City starting out with the struggles that they had. Liverpool, I mean, that was a whole. They were supposed to be the ones who ran away with this league, so far, and they've been just kind of like they lost 4 in the row, like. That's crazy. And then you guys are still kind of getting things, figured out a little bit here and there. You look at like their main challengers right now, like Sunderland, Bournemouth, they're probably not going to be there towards the end pushing them. So I think it really depends also not just on their performances, but it seems like City's starting to get it figured out. It seems like that Giant's getting awoken and kind of getting back to the old City ways. But I think it really is also going to depend on who's their running mates and who's going to are they going to stay consistent enough to keep up with a consistent squad? Because I think when it comes to consistency, you're really looking at the defensive aspect. And you highlighted, they've got one of the best defensive records that we've seen. I mean, that's just absurd. I don't care who you play when you're in this league, to only give up 3 goals in 10 games is just a stupid stat. So I mean, they're for sure, we always knew they were going to be in the title race. I think come December, or to your point, after Christmas, I want to see what these other challengers are doing at that point to decipher more. So I'm putting it more so on the other teams around them. more than I think Arsenal is at this like juggernaut level, because I do think that they can be exposed and have
Yeah,
shown weak
yeah.
points for sure. My question to you before
I
we kind
I
of
agree.
oh, go ahead. Go ahead. Say your point.
I was gonna say I agree, and I kind of liken it to the run that Liverpool started the season on, where they were winning all those games, in the post 85th minute, and that was all their results, and
Right.
you know the underlying performances were down. And now I'm not saying Arsenal have not been playing poorly, but I think there's a lot to the fact that a good chunk of their goals, almost half of their goals, have been from set pieces, and they're set piece FC. Whatever, they do
Yeah.
it better
Yeah.
than anybody right now. But is that something that you want to continue to go to the well with? And can you create, you know, even strength, to borrow a hockey term? Can you create even strength opportunities consistently enough to, win the big games, or you always have to rely on set piece? I think it's a big danger in saying, "Oh, we can always get a corner." It's good. It's a good arrow to have in your quiver, but who do you want the ball at their feet on your team in the 88th minute, to try to make something happen? Who is that guy on Arsenal? I don't think it's Declan Rice. He's not really a chance creator. Great player, but not
Mhm.
really a chance creator. I don't think that Odegaard stays healthy enough to make a season long impact. I don't think Yacarez. I think Yacarez is he's a decent enough finisher, but he's not an elite finisher. Eze's the one that I would be most afraid of if I was the rest of the league, because when Odegaard comes back, when he's fit enough to play that central nine role, and Eze moves out to the left and he starts to get isolated against the right backs in this league, that's when I think you're going to see what Arsenal have in terms of like elite offensive talent. If you have Eze on the left and Saka on the right, that's pretty damn scary.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's something we haven't seen over a long stretch of time yet. So, guess we'll have to wait and see. But until then, it's their world. I mean, what are they? Are they 7 clear, 8 clear? I mean, that's a
Uh,
big. If you get that gap to Christmas,
yeah. It looks like
that's a pretty
six clear already. Yeah.
6 clear. So yeah, I mean that's 2 games. But I think there's a trend, and we used to make fun of Liverpool for it because they were the only team in history that had been
Yeah.
10 points ahead at Christmas and not won the league. But that's a pretty like a line of demarcation. If you can get double digits ahead by Boxing Day, it's a
Mhm.
pretty good chance you're going to finish in first. So we'll see.
Yeah, I think prior to Liverpool, I think it was something to like if you were 8 points, I think it used to be 8 points clear
8 points.
at
Yeah.
Christmas. Like the statistics were just, well in your favor.
Hmm.
No greater satisfaction than knowing the teams that are responsible for the opposite stats are Liverpool teams for blowing it completely. But yeah, you're right. I don't think set pieces is something you want to hope to have in your bag to get you out of those late game. Because if a team plays you to not allow corners or not allow set pieces and all that type of stuff, I mean, what do you rely on? And it's weird. They take pride in being known as set piece FC. Like that's their they do not mind. They get just as excited. Their set piece coach makes a big name for himself, coming up on the touchline and doing all this stupid stuff to get attention. Like they enjoy the fact that they're known for that. So I think those, like when you're coming down to it in the later games and the tougher games in the season, if you don't have that set piece, I don't want to be relying on that. One more thing before we kind of discuss our teams and then we'll get into the preview is like you talked about them earlier, Crystal Palace, and how much they continue to just get these results and get these wins, and how much that they have lost and are going to continue to lose, as it's kind of been brought out. But like, do you think had they not lost those pieces, it would have been better for them? Like they'd be pushing higher into like European and that type. Or do you think the fact that they have lost those big pieces, other pieces have really like stepped up to the challenge a little bit more, and that's the reason? Like we've been hearing a lot more names being linked with bigger teams, but there's a reason for it. It's like they're stepping up to the occasion and kind of rising. So do you think Crystal Palace is that team? Do you think had they not lost the Ezes and all that type of stuff, would they be title challengers, or do you think something that they're kind of hanging their pride on is the fact that everybody's, counted them out for losing such pieces?
Title challengers, I don't think so.
Not
Now,
title challengers, no, but
yeah,
European.
top four, 100%. You know, I hold as a in extremely high regard. I really wish he hadn't gone to art. I feel like he's scored some bangers so far, but like, he was the guy at Crystal Palace, and I feel like he could have been the superstar if he had stayed. Now he still could, right? But I feel like it's harder to become a superstar when you're already surrounded by superstars. You've got Declan Rice, you've got Bukayo Saka. You know, it's hard to be the number one guy on those teams, right? If he stays at Palace, then he is the guy. I mean, he's the Palace legend. Now, okay, whatever. No, but top four, absolutely. I think the biggest thing for them is they have such a solid system in place, and Oliver Glasner is such a good manager. It's unreal how, like you said, you lose players like Eze's caliber, and you're going to lose Mark Gahey, and you're still just crushing. Relatively speaking, like you have no business, being a consistent top 8 team if you're Palace and you just consistently losing players like that. No business whatsoever. You should be fighting for relegation.
Right.
But he shines through, and there's a lot of speculation that at the end of this season he might be somebody who's in line for a bigger job, if one is open. Now I don't know where one would be open. I guess there's always Chelsea finish outside the top 4 and Maresca gets let go. But no, it's fun. It's fun to have a team like Palace that like they're not. It's not like I don't view them as somebody that I like hate. I hate to succeed. You know what I mean? So I love watching them as a neutral, and let's just hope that they're able to continue to, keep their cupboard full, and they don't lose guys like Sarr and Mateta and. Like I said, Gahey is all but gone if he's healthy. So, it's just fun. It's fun. I try to live in the moment more. Let's just enjoy Palace for what they are right now, because, we were kind of thinking that, this is a new Newcastle, and now we're going to have another, addition to the Big Six, and there you go with that. And same thing with like the Brentfords of the world, and I'm sure that the same thing will go. With Bournemouth, maybe not so much Sunderland, but, the Big Six are the Big Six for a reason. It's because they can afford to tear everybody else's rosters apart.
Yeah, yeah. No, that was why I posed the question of, like, do you think it's
a great
where
question.
they could have been, or if they could have been? Because you also think about a couple years ago, Olise going to Bayern, you could have had Olise out on the right, Eze out on the left. Like, what that I mean, on paper, or we'll say it in this term, if you look at a FIFA, like sometimes you look at FIFA and their scores, you think this team, on FIFA nobody should ever lose to this team. You look at the old Madrid Galacticos and they won like one championship over the years, but you look at that team and you think, how could that? So I just wonder which way it could have been. But like you said, you live in the moment, and unfortunately, in the moment, Man United, I look at it as a dropped opportunity. Going to Nottingham Forest and honestly really struggling throughout the game. Nottingham Forest, I would say, definitely was the better team, at least for sure in the second half. Like, that was where United really lost that game, is second half. But, our teams on the weekend, United drop points, but squeak out a draw, 2-2 draw against Nottingham Forest at Nottingham Forest. And then you guys come up with a big win, Tottenham in the London Derby, which was, obviously a pretty good back-and-forth London Derby, I'll say. But United, we said it going in. We'll see what sort of United we have. Do we get excited? Do we not? And I think, again, they just kind of showed what they are this year. It's just an average team that's going to, maybe play up to the games that they should, play down in the games that they won't, and, be that team that gets people excited, but always has that capability of, really dropping things off and just not consistent. Like, if they would have been consistent in both halves in that game, I think it could have been a different story. But they're just, I feel like each game, it's like it's a tale of two halves with that team. Like, there's just never really been such high consistency with them, and they've, just been just as bad with, like, we talked about Liverpool, but pulling things out a little bit later. And then a real worry, which you kind of brought up pre-show, is like, yeah, AFCON's coming up here in December, and they're losing a lot of key figures. So I don't know if this Man U team has the depth to really continue to be, you know, a team that we think is back, like we were thinking a couple weeks ago. The one I feel bad for the most is that dude who's not cutting his hair, because he said before that draws don't count, and so now he's back to one, and it's just like, geez. But so that's where I'm at with United. It's just, I think they just showed who they truly are, and had that hesitancy going into it. I'm glad that they at least came out with a point, but to me, I'm more looking at United this year still as if we get a result, I'm happy, because I think I'm under the understanding of what this team truly is, so I'm not going to get overly hyped with a 3-game winning streak thinking like, oh, we're going to be back in Europe. That's probably why I didn't abuse the group text a little bit more with sending more stuff to you. But you we said going into the game, let's see what type of Spurs team this truly is when they face off against a tougher opponent. Coming out with a win, big game. Did you like your performance? Did you feel there's still to be lacking? I mean, do you take things more into consideration, considering derby games typically can go one of two ways? It's either both teams play stellar and you get a classic derby, or both teams just are more concerned about just beating the hell out of each other, and the lack of quality in the game goes.
Man, I wish. So I wish that in these derby games that teams just always went for it. That's what I really would prefer, because I hate playing not to lose, and I think that's what Spurs did. I think it's pretty obvious in their, in the result, and then kind of the underlying statistics. Like, again, we're not the XG guys, but it was like a historically low XG for them. I don't know that they had a real chance on goal. And against this Chelsea team that are pretty average to below average defensively, to get a clean sheet at Tottenham Hotspur is kind of, it's kind of, be kind of gross if I was a Spurs fan. Like, you couldn't pop one goal against this crappy Chelsea defense. And hey, good on them. Like, they held the ball quite a bit. I thought that this could have easily been a 2 or 3-0 game. The goal that they did score was well earned, albeit ugly. Caicedo just kind of ate everybody alive and then set up João Pedro on the doorstep. But João Pedro could have had 2 or 3 himself. Yeah. So you asked earlier about what I thought about the effort. I mean, I thought Chelsea were okay. They did what they had to do to get a win, but it's just kind of comes down to what we've talked about a couple times now. It's a team that is not, I just don't know that they have the focus or the discipline or the play with the real intensity, other than a couple guys out there, to really bury teams that they should. And then, not to jump to Champions League, but, yesterday they had to pull out a draw with Karabakh. Now, Karabakh are fun to watch this year in the Champions League. If you don't know about Karabakh, they're from Azerbaijan. They're kind of giant killers. Like, the fact that they're in Champions League itself is kind of amazing. And Chelsea, they went up early in that game with a really nice goal. But then, foot off the gas, and you're down 2-1 all of a sudden. Now you got an encouraging performance out of Delap. I thought Delap looked lively, which is a nice bounce back after the stupidest red card of the season, which is a lot to say after all the red cards they've had this season, but it was real dumb. So am I encouraged by that performance? I'm encouraged by the result, but until I see a 4 or 5 game stretch of wins, convincing wins, I'm not going to be convinced that this team is anything more than 4th place contender, and that's where I sit. So good to win the derby. I would like for them to go for the win in the derby. I'd always like my team to go for the win, but it doesn't change my opinion of them.
Yeah, no, I agree with that placing and kind of where that team is. It's you guys are still very, very dangerous. I think I think Europe should be a very well expected thing out of that squad. But as far as anything beyond that, I think they're still just especially defensively, just really kind of struggling. I think
Yeah.
if anything, though, the person that was most bummed about that is people who bet on red cards happening within that game, because I
Yeah.
thought for sure London, Tottenham, Chelsea game rivalry. I thought, and then the streak you guys were on, I thought it should have been a locked up deal. So
No,
whoever bet that.
it was relatively tame.
Yeah,
I think if Richarlison had started, the odds of that might have gone up a little more. But
yeah,
it was a relatively tame matchup. And a lot of that could be that a lot of those guys on both teams are relatively new to that rivalry.
yeah.
That
You're
that could
right.
be a major part of it. I mean, Franks is new to the rivalry. The Chelsea squad turns over every 6 months, so all of them are pretty much new to the rivalry. The last time that they had a really good row was surprise, surprise, when Antonio Rudiger was still part of Chelsea. And I don't know if you remember this game, but he got Son sent off for a red for a kick out. And that was the last time I really remember being like, okay, there's some hot, if you get
Yeah.
Youngmin Son fired up enough to kick out, like you're doing something right. And that's Rudiger is definitely a button pusher.
Oh God, yeah. Like he's that definition of like you love him on your team, but everybody else hates
Oh God,
the
he's
guy.
turned
Like
into so much more of a shithouse now. The deal with throwing the ice on the pitch
yeah,
last year, it's
Madrid's
just
only Madrid's only made that worse as far as like what
yeah,
that type of
yeah.
behavior and stuff like that. But yeah,
Yeah, who would have thought that you go to a squad with a bunch of superstars and absolutely nobody to rein them in, and the guy that needed to be reined in most just loses his damn mind. Dude, I know we don't talk about that league a bunch, but they are just that team. If La Liga wasn't such a overall terrible league and it was just them and Barca, like they would be in trouble. Like they got
yeah,
absolutely worked by Liverpool yesterday at Anfield. And you've got Vinny Jr., who Connor Bradley put him in his pocket, and he's always bitching about something. And then you've got
mm,
Jude Bellingham, who apparently his daddy is the one asking for his playing time for Madrid, which is just batshit to me. That you have like the biggest club team in the world, and your dad is the one begging or demanding that you get playing time. It's just such a shit show, man. And for a team that wins so much, it's wild that they're basically just a clown show all the time.
well, I think the thing that they've backed themselves into a corner as well is they have. I think when they sign these players, they make promises that they are going to be the superstar. And what you're seeing now is Vinny Jr. the past couple games has had like meh performances and been subbed off. Well, now all of a sudden he's at a row with Xavi Alonso because he's getting less
Yeah,
playing time. And but to him, he's like, I'm the superstar. But they don't. Sometimes they look more about the name than they do the performance. And I think
yeah,
that's where they back themselves into a lot of trouble a lot of times, and why they aren't. They should, on paper, like we said, on paper, they should be a dominant force. But you look at like a lot of times when they play teams in different leagues, they get really exposed because they're not just waiting out for that Barcelona,
yep.
derby and all that type of stuff. But yeah, uh, interesting weekend as we look forward to this upcoming weekend and starting right away. United's going to be testing my fandom patience or willingness, I guess I should say, with the 6:30 kickoff time, as we were just talking about, with against Tottenham at Tottenham. Don't really like this one. Not convinced off of that performance. I feel like they took a step back. Tottenham, has got to be looking at Thomas Frank's got to be in there thinking like, hey, if we have any chance at top four, these are the games that we need to try and, step up to the plate at home against these big rivals. I can't see them dropping points against two big squads in a row at home, but I just am not convinced with United right now. But the only thing I do have that I'm liking in their favor is they do step up in these big games. They kind of play like the Palace style, where in the big games they're always competitive and they're always there. So if I do set an alarm, it's going to be like the hesitancy to like actually hit like turn on that one, because I feel like all the time getting up for the early games for United has just left me in like, why did I do that disappointment?
Well, come on, man. It's a big team battle to start the weekend off. Like you've got to get
Is
up
it
for it.
is this a
It
big
is.
team battle anymore?
It's a big club battle.
This is more like if you upgraded Slayer from 4v4 to 8v8. It's like you upgraded a little bit, but let's not get carried away with a big team battle on that one.
No, this game is really intriguing because both teams are so bipolar in their recent results, right? Like United go on a 3-0 on a 3 game winning streak and then drop points to hapless Forest, and Spurs put up their worst performance of the Premier League season against Chelsea and then go 4-0 in Champions League. So what are we going to get out of both of them? I think that I like United in this game, and I will tell you why. Because I know what to expect out of their offensive effort. I
Yeah.
don't know what to expect out of Tottenham. I thought Tottenham would have tried to hit Chelsea so hard on the counter because Chelsea throws so many bodies forward and are vulnerable on the counter, and they just never did it. And it's not like Chelsea kept them from doing it; they just never did it. So I don't know what. And then they go 4-0 against Copenhagen, but Copenhagen are really struggling this year in Champions League and in the Dutch Premier League. So what are you going to get out of it? I mean, a 4-0 win gives you a lot of confidence. Their home field advantage doesn't really do anything for them right now. I like United in this game. I like it to be I like them to it to be a high scoring game. I don't think I think if one thing that Franks needs to accept is that in this game you're not going to get away with the same, kind of conservative effort you get against Chelsea, because United just don't give a shit. They're just going to go
Mhm.
forward.
Yeah.
So I like it to maybe be a little bit of a goal. And United don't play boring games, so I do not expect this to be a boring game, which is probably why it ended up being like a 0-0 draw. I would be really shocked and disappointed if that was the case, though. So I
Yeah.
like United in this game.
I hope so. I like your points as far as that goes. I think both these teams are just also there's I don't know how to they're almost just happy that they're somewhat back from compared to
Hmm.
last season, finishing like
Yeah.
17th to 15th. Like they look at it as like I think they get too fan base especially get too like we're on a roll. We're back. And it's like, man, remember where we were. Like we didn't make that drastic of changes to where all of a sudden we're ahead of where we're at. And I think Tottenham with their schedule played into that, and then I think with United we're just that inconsistent team right now. So I'm hoping, to your points, that can be the thing. And like you said, they don't play boring games, and they do come out and look to take it. And I think Tottenham picked up a few injuries in that last games and throughout the week, so maybe that'll play in our favor as well. And an intriguing one, I think next, starting at the 9 o'clock hour, is going to be Everton taking on Fulham. Everton at home. Everton, they're kind of like a who knows what you're going to kind of get a team. Fulham started drastically terribly. This year they bounced back against Wolves. Everton coming off of that draw against Sunderland, which I think they were probably the better team in that game as well. But you look at their last 2 losses; it was against Tottenham and City, so you kind of give them that. But they've also taken points against Palace, which we have just highlighted as such a strong team. Fulham, I think, have been just not good this year, but even worse away on the road. So I'm going to maybe give the edge here to Everton, thinking at home atmosphere, somewhat playing, consistent enough, I would say. I'm going to give the edge a little bit here to Everton.
Yeah, I'll agree with you. Fulham, I don't take anything out of them beating Wolves 3-0 up a man. Everton in that game against Sunderland were the much better team for the first 25 minutes, and then something happened and they just fell off. They've still got major issues not having a dedicated 9. They've got players like Grealish and they've got Njayi, although Njayi picked up an injury if I remember right. So he's electric coming off that right side for them. But I still think that Everton are the better team, albeit inconsistent. Fulham don't do anything to really blow me away or anyone else away. So I would give the advantage to Everton a lot because they're at home, but I also think that they're the better team in a vacuum.
Yeah, and looking up now, they definitely have dominated the head-to-head, like 10-5 as far as wins go
Yeah,
in that
there you go.
that game. So next, we got a battle of bottom dwellers as well as the claret and blue color scheme. We've got West Ham taking on Burnley. West Ham at home. No real, I would say, home advantage when it comes to that. West Ham pulling off a big surprise with the 3-1 win over Newcastle, just truly struggling this year. Burnley not much any better. 2-0 loss to Arsenal, but they have beat Wolves and Leeds. But again, that's just the battle of the bottoms at this current moment in time. 18th taking on 17th. Not real excited for this one, but I feel like anytime you get two bottom teams together, a lot of times you just find those are the most exciting games because they realize, like, this is my competition for staying up this year.
Yeah, this is a 6-point swing game for two teams that are going to be in the relegation battle, most likely, right?
Yeah.
Do we I mean, the West Ham win last week over Newcastle, how much do we actually take out of that is the big question. West Ham, sometimes they can look like, this is a competent squad. Pakata and Jared Bowen, they could sometimes look like they're even halfway competent, but then other times it's just like this is a championship team with a couple of guys that'll be on somebody else's roster next year. Burnley, we were all excited the first couple of months about the promoted squads, and Sunderland have the only ones that have kept that momentum going. And it's, it's the reason that most teams that come up go right back down, right? You just don't have the horses to, compete. But this is a must-win game for both teams. I'd argue it's more important for West Ham because they're the bigger side, and they've got to give they've got the players that could make the run to keep them up. Whereas I feel like they could go on a decent little run and distance themselves and get themselves to safety. Whereas I think Burnley are never going to be able to be consistent enough this year to fully escape to safety. So I like West Ham to win this one, but not a confident, not a super, like, this wouldn't be my lock of the week, that's for sure.
No. Yeah, it seems like West Ham, like, they need a Paqueta, like, brilliant goal and then, a little bit of luck like they did in Newcastle where they picked up an own goal as a second goal. Like, they need that type of stuff. Like, Suchet scored to make it 3-1, but it was, 97th minute. So
yeah, that was
late in the game. It's kind of just a finish it out kind of deal. But to your point, I agree with you on the fact of I think West Ham has a lot more to lose just with club size and general expectations. Nobody expected them to be like this bad. So I think it means a little bit more. I also think they need to realize, too, if they lose at home to Burnley, those fans are really going to not handle that well. So a lot more on
they had a scheduled sit-in protest last week anyway for after the Newcastle game, and then after the win they still had to sit-in protest the ownership and club not spending and all that. So they want to be heard, and they will be heard. So yeah, it's to me it's a much more important game for West Ham, like you said, because they're at home, because they're the bigger club, because they're expected to win it. We always talk about, when we're talking about STL City, the only thing worse than fan anger is fan apathy. And the West Ham, as long as the West Ham fans are still screaming in anger, they're fine. It's when they start not caring that there should be a problem. You should expect a problem.
It's when they stop blowing those bubbles. That's when you got to be worried. Is when
That's
West
right.
Ham stops blowing the bubbles.
Stupid tradition.
Dumbest.
I'm sure there's something to it that's really like endearing
Heartfelt,
and has something to do with kids
yeah.
and heartfelt, but it's stupid looking.
No, I think the fact that I feel the need to point it out to my daughter every time it's on the TV says all that. Hey, look, bubbles on the TV. And it's like, okay.
That's what you want soccer to be associated with.
Yeah, exactly. Next one, I find an intriguing matchup is Sunderland taking on Arsenal at 11:30. Sunderland at home. Now, the biggest thing here is Sunderland don't score a lot of goals. And we're not math experts on here, but I don't believe the equation of don't score a lot of goals against the best team in the league is a good combination. I mean, math was never a great subject for me, but that combo just doesn't seem like it'll work.
No.
I just almost want to convince myself or just believe here that this could be the possible game that just Arsenal slip up at. I'm not going to say they're exposed because I don't think Sunderland are that high flying offensive team that just really like I said, they don't score a ton of goals. So I don't think that's where they're going to. I just almost wonder if it's maybe Arsenal don't come in fully on it and somehow Sunderland pick one up at home. That crowd, everything gets going. Like it's been highlighted through many media outlets this year is like when Sunderland scores a goal, how ruckus and how wild that place can be. If Sunderland can go up early, I think they could really, maybe just ride that wave. And like you said, Arsenal a lot of times relying on set pieces. Maybe they can, try and keep them away from that. Could Sunderland pull a big upset? I would say I would consider an upset at home against Arsenal.
It'd be hard for them to score early and then hang on to the ball. Or not hang on to the ball and to pack it in for a full 90, even at home. Arsenal just puts so much pressure on you. And I don't know what their number are of set pieces earned, but it seems like they do more. They in Liverpool do more to put pressure on the defense that causes the fouls, that causes the corners, that causes the long throws, to where it's at some point it's just a game of odds, right? Like if you get 15 set pieces a game and you're the best set piece taking team in England, you're probably going to get a goal or two. So I know Stadium of Light, the environment is going to be fun, but it's not the level of team that can take advantage of that atmosphere against a team that is as well polished as Arsenal. If this was it's not Anfield, right? It's not like, oh man, even Liverpool, not at their best, if they pull a goal early at Anfield, then they're just going to ride the wave of that crowd, and there's no way that Arsenal are going to get back in that game. That's not the environment. So I think it's still Arsenal. I don't think it's going to be as easy as some people do, but I don't give Sunderland much of a chance to earn any result. I mean, the furor that team is defending their goal right now. There was a penalty given in their game against Slavia Prague late on, and it eventually ended up being overturned. And this is a 3-0 game already. They were so nuts about that not being a penalty for a 3-0 relatively meaningless game in Champions League. They don't want to concede. They're not going to be any easy goals. They're going to do everything they can to distance themselves from Sunderland. This is a little bit of a different makeup of an Arsenal squad. So I don't give Sunderland much of a chance at all.
Yeah. And they rotated that squad so much for that midweek game. You can't really even say schedule congestion. Plus Sunderland played Monday. So, 2 days difference really. So I think Arsenal take too much pride in their goals conceded at this moment and then, like I said, a team that doesn't score a lot of goals. I think it's still all Arsenal on that one. And then the last game of Saturday, 2 p.m. kickoff time, we've got Chelsea taking on Wolves. Chelsea's at home. Wolves not much more you can really say about Wolves this year. I think they're going to be the bottom team throughout, only sitting on 2 points at the moment. You guys, 2-2 draw midweek, but other than that, you would say outside of dropping points against Sunderland, have been on a pretty good run as a moment. You guys played Wolves not too many days earlier and, eked out of there with the win. I was really kind of hoping on that one for it to be the huge shock, but not, unfortunately it didn't. I feel like you guys are going to look at that and be like, we can't let that happen again and almost make this a statement game.
3 words: new coach bounce.
Yeah.
I don't like this game at all.
Who was it that they just appointed to? I can't even
Well,
think.
they had somebody that was lined up, and I think they made him an offer, and he turned him down.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was. Oh, let's see here. I can't remember his name. I was listening to it this morning.
You do got to think though, if you're a manager, like an offer like that comes through, you got to be thinking, I'm all right. Because I must be doing something right if a Premier League club is coming to want to get me, and it's like I don't know if I want to take on what are you going to do with that squad to turn them around? You know what I mean? Like it's not like you're just basically saying I'll move here to then have to move again when you fire me in May, kind of deal.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't like it. I don't like the game. I don't like I don't like that they just almost came back a couple weeks ago and won that Carabao Cup game, or had at least went to penalties in that Carabao Cup game. Yeah, I don't. You're talking about, is this the game where Arsenal slips up? It's like this feels like the game where Chelsea slip up again. Solo game, later game for them. So that's a 9 o'clock start for them, or 8 o'clock start for them.
I think 8 o'clock. Yeah.
Yeah, a team with nothing to lose and you with little motivation. Yeah, I don't like it at all. I don't like it one bit. Now, that being said, I think that they probably find a way to get it done, but I bet it's ugly. I bet it's like a
Yeah.
3-2 or something stupid like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would, as weird as it is to say, I would rather have them playing Liverpool, City, Arsenal right now while they're trying to find their feet than playing these cellar dwellers.
Yeah. You
Just
sound like
because,
me
yeah,
with
I
Nottingham
think that
Forest last week. Yeah.
they get up for the competition for the most part, and I just think
Mm.
that a young, undisciplined team against a Wolves team that you just beat and you scored 4 goals on, I think they might take them lightly. I don't know. It's going to be. It's this is an important, and not in the grand scheme of, oh, Enzo Maresca is going to lose his job if he can't beat Wolves, but like these are the type of response games that you should come out and thump them. Again, let's talk
Mm.
about that Man U Burnley game that we were talking about
Yeah.
back from Labor Day weekend. Convince me that you're an elite side by going out and thumping Wolves 3-0 at home. Go do that. And if they don't, if it's another grind it out, then I'm still going. I'm probably going to remain the same either way because Wolves are that bad. But
Yeah.
give me a reason to believe. The Carabao game did not do that. Sorry.
These are the games like we were talking about earlier, like being that, probably fourth spot as far as Europe. Like these are the games that can make or break that though. I think
Yeah.
sometimes we get too focused on like when they play the top 6 teams and all that type of stuff. No, these are the games where you find yourself dropping too many of these, like what should be gimme games.
Yeah.
That's where you find yourself looking back and thinking, how did we miss out on top 4? Those are the
Yeah.
games that are the reason you missed out on top 4. And yeah, I feel like we're having deja vu from me talking about Forest last week, where it's just there's something
Yeah.
about like when you're
Same
playing
thing.
that lower level team that you just feel like those teams just get a game always throughout the year, and it always seems to be they get a game against a bigger squad. It's never like it's never like 19th beat 18th, and that's where they got their game. It's always they pick up one against a squad that you're thinking like I can't where the group chat is messaging you about it for weeks later, where they're like, no matter what I do or United do the rest of this year, if you guys don't like it, you'll just bring up Grimsby Town, and that will be like, the thing for you is I'll just bring up Wolves if that so happens. But
You
we'll
think
make our way.
Wolves are at the level of Grimsby Town?
Nobody's hotter than Grimsby Town. I've been saying that
Nobody's
for
hotter
a
than
while,
Grimsby.
for years.
Yep.
I've been telling people like, they get their finances right. There's no reason that talent shouldn't be competing in the Premier League at this point. But
Yeah.
we won't get caught up on our Grimsby Town too much anymore. We'll make our way to Sunday as another interesting one. Just with the run of form here lately, Villa going to be taking on Bournemouth. Villa at home. Villa seemed like they were getting their stuff together. Unfortunately, they ran into the wall of Liverpool. You knew Liverpool was going to have to eventually bounce back, but Villa for a little while was kind of catching fire again. Bournemouth really have just kind of, I guess you could say they've been consistent. They didn't drop points until they hit that juggernaut of Man City, but a win over Forest, draw against Palace. They beat Bournemouth the last time they beat Fulham and then Leeds. So not top quality talent that they've been beaten, but they have been consistent. Villa, what do you like more, consistency or somewhat on the rise? What sticks out to you more? And again, Villa at home on this one.
Bournemouth were never in that game against City, and that was kind of disappointing. Like City kind of took that game by the scruff of the neck and just kind of buried it in the first half. Now they got the goal, they got the Tyler Adams goal off the set piece, but that was really, I mean, to my recollection, I think that was their most dangerous chance. Semenyo kind of got bottled up. So, yeah, I don't know, man. Villa kind of came down to earth too, right? That's a really good question. No, I don't know. This is a toss up. I guess I give Villa the edge being at home. But yeah, I don't feel strongly either way.
No, I'm going to be excited to watch that game though, because I think it'll be two teams that Bournemouth realize, hey man, if we're going to have any discussion of staying where we're at, we got to capitalize on games like this. And Villa's got to be thinking, hey, we it's okay. That was Man City, we know, but we're still on our rise. We'll still get things figured out. But I don't know. I'm gonna be interested to watch that one. I think.
I hope this doesn't turn into one of those crappy 0-0 games that you get excited about. That's a mid, you know what I mean, like mid-table. Like, oh, these are two teams that are underrated, and we should be excited to watch because there's some talent, there's some non-mainstream talent, and then it's 0-0 or like 1-0 own goal garbage, something like that.
I just think almost Bournemouth, they have to be looking like you have to almost like earn back your pride. Like you said, they were never in that game against City.
Yeah.
I mean, they just held, and then, Adams' goal was a junk goal just off a set piece as well. So I think they have to be looking to really turn the tide. So going to be an interesting one. Another interesting one is, Brentford taking on Newcastle, Brentford at home. I feel like both these teams are kind of, you never know what you're going to get. I think with Brentford, it's more like you get a happy surprise that rather than like you feel like that's the team. And then Newcastle, I mean, you really look at Newcastle's last couple runs, I guess, they've won 4 of their last 5, but they're just not you just like you said, who knows what they're going to get. They're not really having a bad season. I mean, they're 13th, but they're on the rise from where they started. So they started real poor, and they've kind of got it figured out. Brentford, 3 in their last 5. They're coming off a loss at Palace, but I mean, Palace we've highlighted as just another level, and then their other loss was against Man City this year. It's going to be an interesting one. Battle of 12th and 13th. I just think Newcastle, these are those types of games where it gets the Newcastle fans excited just to be let down again. Like they're like, oh yeah, we got Brentford. They've been on a run. We've got it figured out again, and then they'll drop it. But
they're a Champions League team. Newcastle's they play for champions. They're the Real Madrid of England. They play for Champions League. No, the only thing consistent about Newcastle is they are inconsistent. So I think I expected a lot more out of Brentford last week against Palace. I thought that was kind of a letdown. So I think they probably bounce back. Newcastle had a midweek Champions League win against Athletic Club, and they looked okay, but England, they still kind of have yet to find any sort of footing. Man, their Champions League schedule, I was just looking at that because I was trying to remember who they played this week, which is wild because it was just yesterday, maybe, something like that. Yeah, so how could I already forget that? But so in Champions League, they've beaten Athletic Club, they've beaten Benfica, they dropped 2-1 to Arsenal. I'm sorry, no, they won 4-0 against Union Saint. I'm going to start to pronounce that one. Union SG. And then they lost to Barca 2-1. So they're looking really strong in Champions League, right? But Premier League just mediocre. So I don't know what it is. Maybe it's the weeknight lights that get them going. But I put my name behind Brentford last week, and I'm going to do it again this week.
I mean, what I'm kind of seeing with this whole Sunday, now that I'm looking at the rest of all these Sunday games, is it's really just who are you near in the table? That's who you're playing.
That's who you're playing.
Because yeah, pretty much. Because so we had Villa taking on Bournemouth. That's the only biggest gap, 5-11. But I think going into the season, we predicted them to be a lot closer.
Yeah, that's realistically, that's two teams that are mid-table, probably next to each other, right?
Right. Then we've got Newcastle and Brentford. They're 12th and 13th. After that, next game we're going to talk about is going to be Brighton taking on Palace, 9th and 10th. Okay. Then we'll just kind of keep this rolling while we're on it. Then we've got Leeds taking on Forest, both in the relegation battle. And then to finish it out with the big team battle is going to be Man City taking on Liverpool at 2 and 3. So like this whole Sunday is just a look at who you're around on the table. That's who you're playing kind of deal. So, which I enjoy because I think teams look at that as, hey, if we're going to pull away from this said team, this is the games that we have to do it is when you're against each other. Like you said, it could be a 6-point swing. So Palace at Brighton, Palace at home. I would say I've liked more what I've seen out of Palace this year than what I've liked out of what I've seen out of Brighton. And for that reason and being at home, I'm going to lean more towards Palace with this one. Coming off 2 big wins against Liverpool and then Brentford, I just, Brighton, they're coming off a win, but it was against Leeds, but 2 back-to-back losses against bigger talent on that thing. I'm leaning more, I would say, to Palace on this one.
Yeah, I am too. I just think Palace are just the much, much better team. They do have a Conference League game today, so we'll see how they're able to rest players, if they're able to rest players, if they do. Because I think we talked about like Conference League is probably a very realistic competition for them this year in terms of being able to win it. If they aren't able to get into Europa through being in that 5th place spot, we think they have a good chance to win Conference League. So, not saying they're going to throw their resources today, but it's still travel. It's still your mind elsewhere, but I just think that they're just a better team.
Yeah. I
like Brighton. We like Brighton a lot. We like the model and we like some of the players but I just think this is a season. This is a Palace season. As long as they can stay healthy and keep the momentum going, I think this is a team that's going to just continue to achieve and surprise people.
Yeah, I think between the 8 o'clock games, I think I'm leaning more towards that one being my priority as far as what I watch.
Oh yeah, 100%
on the weekend for sure.
Out of the how many of them are there? Out of the 3,
out of the 4,
out of the 4, yeah, that one will be that one's top of the list for me.
Yeah, for sure. One that's probably at the bottom of that list is going to be Nottingham Forest taking on Leeds. Just the relegation battle, so you got that excitement out of it. Both teams just, Nottingham Forest more, they're dealing with a lot more, as far as like schedule and then as well as, the amount of players they've lost and all that type of stuff. But Leeds, we've said it before on earlier shows where they just look like a championship team. Like everybody, they're skill-wise, everything about them just kind of seems like that's just a championship squad. Nottingham Forest at home. Do you think they look at that result that they pulled out a big result? What was that against Porto 2-0 2 games ago, and then I would say was probably maybe the better team on the night against United. I think momentum just kind of trends a little bit more in their favor. So I'm gonna give the home and field advantage and just the better team, I think, between the two to Forest.
Yeah, agreed. It's Forest. Although I'm watching them play Sturm Graz right now. Today's Europa Day in the Wyckoff household. We've got Sturm Graz, we've got Golasso Show, and then we've got Midtjylland and Celtic. All these games pretty much suck. But this Forest and Sturm Graz game is particularly boring. I can't think of a worse manager to go there than Sean Dyche. Like, God, his team just plays such boring soccer.
Yeah, he literally plays to save teams, and I don't think you can have a manager this early in the season brought in to save your team. Like, I don't think that model will last.
No, it's so early. But I mean, if you're a club like Forest that is playing in Europe and you've set that standard now, and you've got a batshit owner that thinks that's where you belong all the time, you can't get to Europe by not staying up. So, I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's it's what is it, 300 million pounds difference between between championship and Premier League. So,
Something like that. Yeah.
yeah, but no, I'm with Forest. Forest have to be the favorite to win this game at home. Like you said,
Yeah.
Leeds are very much a championship side.
Yep. And then the last game of the weekend is the opposite of two championship teams right now. You got Man City, our big team battle. What's that? Juggernaut battle, whatever you want to call it.
Sure.
What's the
Yeah.
whatever the biggest of the team battles I guess you could have on the weekend would be is this one. Man City taking on Liverpool. Man City at home at the Etihad. I I think the way they've been playing lately, it seems like the Giants been awoken, and City has really been on just a tear lately. They dropped one to Villa, which was a 1-0 loss, just a real big surprise. But like you said, they just took it to Bournemouth, and then clearly they took it to Dortmund just a couple days ago. Liverpool, they picked up that win against Villa. They picked up the 1-0 win against Madrid, but I don't know if Liverpool. There's still some things that I need to be convinced on. Where I think right now, if I'm looking at who's the hotter team, I'm looking at Man City. And being away from Anfield, not that we highlighted last week that it's not exactly the fortress that it has been in recent years, but I look more at these results thinking like City's back to dominating teams, whereas Liverpool's kind of back to getting wins.
Yeah, I'm with you. This is okay. Liverpool wins this game, and I buy the Liverpool are back theory.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, they look good against Madrid, but I don't think Madrid are nearly as good as people think they are. I never do, and then they'll end up in the final 8, or the Champions League semifinals. But yeah, I think Man City are a little bit ascending, and I think that this one, if Liverpool can go in and win this game at the Erlinghad. Not to correct you, but at the Erlinghad, he's on such a heater. He's on such a heater right now. But I don't know what his goal scoring record is against Van Dijk. I know that Van Dijk can stay with him step for step, and he's muscle for muscle. It's a great matchup. Let's put it that way. I think the X factor and the reason that I would give Man City the edge this week is Phil Foden. He scored 2 goals yesterday in Champions League, and he's kind of picking up that Foden. Was it 2002 Phil Foden, 2003 Phil Foden, where he was like always in the starting side and one of the better young players and was lighting it up for England? Like, that's the Phil Foden that has been playing the last couple of weeks. So he's the reason. And I don't know. Okay, I've heard his name pronounced Chirky and Shirky.
Shirky is what I always say. Yeah,
he is a monster. And how does Man City just keep coming up with these dudes that are just like, they get Taji Reinders and they get Omar Marmoush, and like they just continually are restocking with these just animals, monsters of players that just they seemingly get for almost nothing. And everybody else has got to pay through the nose for a little bit better than mediocre talent. It's just, Pep is he's just a magician with some of these signings, man.
Yeah, Shirky was one that we were linked to, and I was mad when City outbid us and took him away from us. And I think more so the deciding factor with that was where we were currently sitting at a time of trying to get him. The City was still Europe and stuff like that. Going back all the way to a couple points you made. First off, when you said buy Liverpool and like if they win, I'll buy. I was like, easy, man. Like you don't have to buy Liverpool merch or anything just if they win this game. And so I just want to put it out there. I'm glad that you said into that Liverpool are back because I think my eyes like looked up at the screen real quick. Like,
oh no, I would never.
And then too with Foden, I think you meant 2022 and 23 because I don't know if he was born in 2002 or 2003 because that dude is still so young and stuff like that. But I'm really Sunday, and it sucks that that's the day that I'm, at work and everything. But Sunday, just from top to bottom, is just going to have a bunch of great close in the table matchups. And what'll happen is it'll probably be a bore fest, and all those games will suck. But I mean, honestly, all throughout the weekend, I think we've got a lot of close in the table battles outside of like you and Wolves. It's a lot of close battles that I think it's going to be a pretty, hopefully, a good solid weekend of games. I'm hoping it all starts off brilliantly with a United win over Tottenham, and then hopefully Wolves somehow pull one off. So I can just destroy you on the group chat relentlessly throughout the week. The problem is you guys don't play fun because there's multiple of you that whenever I talk back, the group chat just all of a sudden goes quiet, or my brother's the only one chiming in who hates the Chelsea just as much as I do, even though he supports them.
He does. Yeah.
That it's just not as fun when they like go that route. So
Like, you're supposed to fight back, man.
like, give me something, buddy.
Give
like
me
a little
something.
brotherly back and forth here. We can have a little fun, But yeah. So hopefully we got a good weekend of games. Anything else you want to add before we wrap this one up this week?
No, there is a definite urgency that's starting to build, particularly among the teams that are towards the bottom, especially going into this international break. I think because the chances. I mean, you're a quarter of the way through the season, and some of your chances to pick up points are dwindling already, and. We get to the festive fixtures get so congested, and the games will be, coming at you hard and fast in Europe and domestically. So, it's exciting, but some of these teams are probably starting to feel the crunch a little bit, and they should be.
Yeah, that's it's pretty much spoken from somebody who's going to be playing a bottom dwelling team. The worry that's coming out more and more this weekend. It's just like, I'm just putting it out there now. If these teams are hot and they're expecting a lot, so if we lose, it's because of that factor. Yeah,
yeah. I think the saying is
right.
that you can't win the Premier League in October and November, but you can definitely lose it. So
yep. Same with you could. I mean, let's just use. Well, I mean, you look at that whole 2 points so far in a quarter of the way of the season.
Yeah.
You keep that consistency up. There's no way you're getting yourself up. So. Hopefully we get a good round of games this weekend. Going to be exciting. But I also have a strong feeling that we could be coming in next week, both of us, just that much more annoyed. And I think people who listen to the show enjoy that because majority of them don't like our team. So it works out that way. But
that's fine.
We appreciate all of you listening to the show. Check us out on all our socials to keep up with the show. On Instagram, we're South End Supporters. Our Twitter and our Reddit is _SES_podcast STL. Make sure you're also checking out our Facebook and our YouTube to keep up with all things South End Supporters. So, for myself, Eric Cole, for the Monday Morning Center back, Dave Wyckoff, you've been listening to South End Supporters, and until next week, let's come on United.
I can't even get it out now.
Too many shows.
Oh, come on, you Blues.